All right, hey everyone, welcome back to the Rally Report. It's the big one, folks. We got the full season preview of the 2025-2026 season ahead with none other than Johnny Williams. It really is full steam ahead now with the London Classic just ending, and we're literally straight to the qualifiers for the Egyptian Open. And that event really will be the first diamond and platinum level event of the season. So already some juicy matches happening, and it's going to be all best of 5. All the names you expect to see in the draws are featured in it. So really pumped to see how that's going to pan out. And on my end, I'm not going to ramble on too much on today's rundown as so much is covered in the episode. But I do want to caveat the fact that Johnny and I recapped the London Classic in this episode, but recorded it before the final. So just bear that in mind. But I mean, I can speak a few words on that final. Both quite a dominant performances from Amina over Nila Gillis and Paul Cole over Joel Macon. I'd say my quick 2 cents on it. It's just great to see Nila Gillis smiling out there again. It just seems like she's thoroughly enjoying her squash out there again, which is a good sign for us and maybe not so much for her opponents. And scary hours ahead with Amina Orfi. She really looks like she's tunnel vision ahead towards the big 3 right now. And obviously would have loved to see how she would have handled a potential Olivia Weaver final. But regardless, she took care of business the entire event, only dropping 1 game throughout the entire tournament. So quite dominant to say the least. And on the men's side, what an incredible performance that was by Paul Cole. I do think a lot of people wrote him off with the momentum Joel Macon has had in the past 12 months. But what a statement win that was for Paul. The variation of different paces, the way he was hitting through the ball really just reminded us about the world-class quality player he is. And it's funny how quickly people try writing him off. Because if you think about it, say the past 3 to 4 years, he's up there as one of the most consistent performers. But glad he just shut us all up with that performance. And ultimately, I think it's a good sign. It's a really good sign ahead of the season with this performance from Paul Cole, where we want all 4 of these guys, Paul Cole, Joel Macon, Diego Elias, and Mustafa Asal, battling it out on the men's side and not just having the storyline that's being created right now between Elias and Asal is going to be the ones fighting for titles. But yeah, that's enough from me. Let's switch it over to the season preview where we really dive into all the storylines, the players we think you should keep an eye out for, and who the big movers are going to be, and all that good stuff. Welcome back, everyone. And we got none other than, again, Johnny Williams, who's essentially kind of taking over the podcast at this point. But honestly, he's just been giving so many good takes. I'm happy to have him back on. And Johnny, how have you been? How's the summer been for you? And thank you for coming back on.
Yeah, I hope I'm not hijacking it too much, Sean, because it's an absolute pleasure to do this with you. And any sort of insights and infos that I can offer from this side of Europe across the pond over to the United States, I'm very, very happy to discuss all things squash with you. And what a night it's been to discuss squash. I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, for the people tuning in right now, essentially, Johnny and I are recording this in semifinals nights of London Classic right now. So we're coming off of the absolute banger between Joel Macon versus Diego Elias, which has been, I think, kind of the storyline of Joel Macon has, I think, kind of carried away with the headlines lately of what the potential he can have to bother the top 2, which we'll go into. But yeah, today's episode's really about a season preview, kind of going over the London Classic, kind of gives us a teaser. Johnny and I were actually supposed to record this last week, but Johnny had a good idea of maybe we do this as the London Classic unravels a bit, and we can kind of see how these players are looking, how sharp they're looking in the first season back. And he was spot on. And there's so much to talk about. And why don't we start off
I looked into my Duff beer crystal ball here with Homer, and he told me we should wait.
And he's spot on. It's spot on. So why don't we just start this off with anything that you've noticed in the London Classic so far, any players that have caught your attention? I just want to say on my end, as much shit as I give PSA, I have to say the production looks like a level up for the London Classic. My only hope is they stay consistent with this level of production. Also, they've been coming out with highlights the day of on Squash TV and YouTube, and that's something that I think tennis has been doing, and I think following those footsteps is just these tiny little steps is taking the step forward as a sport. So for all the crap I've given for the past couple of years, I got to give them their kudos for doing something awesome. And I think that's a good thing. And hopefully, I know, Johnny, you're going to be on the comms soon as well. So the production level looks great, and I'm just happy to see our sport taking it to the next level on that front.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks very much, Sean. And of course, I must pass on those good sentiments to the top of the tree at production, and that's Thomas Dwyer. He's the guy that has really been driving this new innovation of trying to, have the studio setting. Studio setting goes into the game, having a bit more of a split there. I've been a big advocate of that for a long, long time. So I'm really happy to see that seems to be working well. They've decided to go with Mike Absalom, who has a lot of history with PSA, working as a presenter, as an MC, and he has that experience in the media world through his hockey playing days. He's done a lot of commentary for field hockey, and he's done kabaddi in India. So he is a true professional, Mike, a great guy, and I think he's doing a great job in the studio. And he's really just opening up those lines of conversation that you need to have, which are pretty general about what's going on out there, what's just happened, with all the right elements of humour and insight. And yeah, I like what I see. I can't wait to be a part of it. And that will be my first gig will be Qatar coming up in a few weeks. But you're right. It's the best way to go with production, yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. So why don't we just start off by London Classic so far? I mean, we're in the semis. I mean, we have to address the Diego Elias Joel making match that just happened right now, but I kind of want to take a step back, which is going to be difficult to do given the gravity of that, what just unraveled there. But I just want to start off from first of all. Obviously, I don't know how much value you take into the first event back, on top of the fact that the London Classic is a best of three until the semifinals. So I don't know how much value you put into these surprise results that we may see. I think best of three is susceptible to a lot more of those type of upsets. But any player that has caught your attention, anything that has disappointed you so far from a certain player, or any result that surprised you, or any level of squash that you saw? Kind of want to open up the dialogue there.
Firstly with the women, like you've sort of mentioned in the pre-talk that we've had leading up to this pod that, is Tessie Murphy, is she back? Is she ready to sort of find that form that took her to the top 10 in the world? And she's made a bit of a statement because she's played really well. She's made the quarters, and she took a game off Subramaniam. Correct me if I'm wrong. I just don't have but yeah,
Satomi.
Satomi, sorry, yeah, exactly. She took a game off Satomi, but she was in that match, Yes, it was best of three, but when I see that it's Georgia Adderley, who's been knocking on the door for a while as well, forging her way to the quarters. Jazz Hutton is a legit top 16 player now, so her knocking on the door is no surprise to me either. But those players who are, have their qualities in their own ways that are, once again, first tournament of the season, are showing that they're ready to go. It's a good sign for seeing that the battles between girls that are around the 20 mark that want to push to the mid-teens, it's game on, and none more so, it has to be said, than Nellie Gillis. Now, Nellie came out and said, I'm ready. I want to go back to the top four. She's made a big statement. Yes, she's had a bit of a free ticket into the semis with the withdrawal of Weaver, but then to make the most of that in a best of five against Satomi and do it so emphatically today like she did. She beat her just under an hour, and those question marks about Satomi's deep aerobic reserves have been raised again for me, because there is no greater test than when you're on there with Nellie Gillis and she's taking you out to the deep water and you've got to stay with her, and she obviously wasn't able to do it. So Nella, big tick for her. Let's hope that her body's in good nick and that she can start to pressurise her way back into the top 10, because she's got the qualities mentally, physically, when her game comes together and she's feeling good, that she definitely can go back to top five for me, and even ask questions of Weaver and Amina Orfi as well.
Now that was going to be my next question. I mean, brilliant to see Nellie Gillis back. I don't think a lot. Obviously, she had a bit of a disappointing season last year. There were some crazy accusations being thrown her way with her marriage with Paul Cole, which was absolutely outrageous to me. But the question I want to ask is, do you think...
What were they, mate? To be honest, I didn't even hear those accusations. So
there were some forums that were saying that her drop-off must have had to do with her being married with Paul, the whole wedding they had the summer before. And
God, yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit
nobody. I mean, these two have been posting, like, when they've been on holidays, that their training program revolves around the holidays. So just, anybody that thinks that needs to just have a look in the mirror and ask themselves what they're on about, because it's quite clear that nobody works harder than those two. And that's it. Yeah. In terms of a training, sort of getting the balance of training and lifestyle with their squash, I mean, those two are a perfect match.
Yeah, I mean, honestly thought she was going to have a good match with Satomi, and this was a fantastic draw for Noah. And also, as you mentioned, she was kind of gifted that walkover against Olivia Weaver. I don't think she would have passed Olivia Weaver, to be honest, on my take if Olivia was healthy. But I guess my question to you is, do you think Amina Orfi and Olivia Weaver are a step above the 5 to 15, and the 5 to 15 are 6 to 15 are still in a power grab right now? I was
Yes.
I asked this
Yeah.
because of the Tina Gillis and Jazz Hutton result as well, as I thought that would be a straight walkover with Tina Gillis kind of proving her level being a bit above people above down in the 15 level. But now after this tournament, I'm just starting to get confused of if there is even much of a difference there.
No, it's a good point. And though that's the sort of narratives that we like to build at Squash TV, you've got the top three. Then you've got these two who have really sort of separated themselves. We talk always the packs and the chasing packs. But after number 5, Tina Gillis has had those question marks raised. Now, we're one tournament in, and she is sort of, the pressure uh, uh, meter on her has just gone up because she's had a huge summer prep like all the other players, and she hasn't passed that test, So losing it out to Jazz Hutton, who she has had problems with before. So Jazz is definitely on a girl that's on the way up. I feel like there is a pathway for her to go into the top, towards the top 10. I'm not sure if it's like, if she's going to go further than that, it's going to take a bit longer, no doubt, I think. But she's one of those players in the mid-teens that I just mentioned who is going to ask all of those questions of girls that are in exactly that bracket, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're going to get asked those questions. And if you want to go top 5, you've got to pass the test. So Tina is still got that question mark there. And the result between Nella, as we just mentioned, between Nella and Satomi just is further confirmation, I think, that Orphy and Weaver are in a class above, and we need more evidence from those other players behind, including Seba, who obviously lost out to Orphy today, by the way, as well, pretty convincingly. We need more evidence to see that those girls have the physical and mental duress to stay with the Weavers and the Orphys, because those two are pushing the 3. They're the only two really, in reality, they're going to push the 3 above as well.
What is missing in Siva's game? I always look to her every season. I mean, I guess we're doing a season preview right now, but every year, I think for the past 2 years, I think she's probably the player I look at as someone who should be in the 4 to 5 battle with Weaver and Amina. And she shows glimpses of it in 1 or 2 events throughout a season every year, but then we don't really see her consistently cracking through. But would love to get your take on what you think it may be missing in her game, or what does she need to add, as she's unbelievable talent. And I really do think she's someone I look at as probably the next one up.
Yeah, I mean, London Classic winner, if we go back, 16, 17 months, had that huge run, beating players ranked above her, Nella Gillis, Shabini, and then Alamami as well. So then, there was a lot of pressure on her shoulders to then, after that bar had been set, to sort of carry on from there. Now, she's not been managed to do it. She's still, solidified herself in that top 7 bracket, and she's been pretty consistent at beating the girls behind her, has to be said. But for going the next step, and that in terms of what you're asking, I feel that her defensive qualities against Orphy, against Weaver, need to hold stronger for longer. I'm not, when she gets tested, we're talking, even the world champ, she played Weaver there, and it gets to 1-1, and then it gets very, very tight and tough in the mid stage of that third game. I think Olivia Weaver has a bigger belief that she knows if I extend this out and I keep all my lines tight, keep my game very organised, I believe that, physically she's going to break down before I do. And we are seeing that happen too often. And we need to see that Seba can push through that barrier, push through the pain barrier, as it were, when you go into that real oxygen debt, the red zone, and stay longer with Weaver and Orphy before she's going to have wins over them, because there's no easy route to get past those girls. And she just hasn't shown, I think, us enough that she can do that. When her shots are firing and her A game's working, she is unbelievable. The backhand, the array of winners that she can produce on the backhand side is right up there with the top 3, actually. So there's no doubting that, the skill set, but it's about the defensive qualities and then being able to back up in those really hard moments with your movement and continue to do it. And that's what she's going to have to do if she wants to get there.
Yeah, but no, brilliant. I mean, Amina Orphy looks unbelievable. I mean, she's probably, in my opinion, I think she's going to roll through that final. She's going to show her class there. kind of ripping through the draw. The one person outside of Amina Orfi, I actually want to go back to Jazz Hutton. It's funny because the British Nationals did not feature neither Jazz Hutton or Gina Kennedy. And Gina Kennedy, unfortunately, had an early exit in this tournament, and Jazz Hutton passing round two to go to the quarterfinals. And I'm curious, as they are essentially, to me, the top two ladies on the British side. But do you feel like it might be concerning hours for Gina Kennedy's game, or do you think Jazz Hutton has what it takes to actually be the British number one player?
Yeah, Jazz certainly has shown enough in the last, especially the last 12 to 18 months that physically she looks as good as she's ever looked. Looks extremely. If you just look at the physique, the way she's cut, that doesn't lie. You don't look like that unless you've been training really hard. And she came out this week. She was in the studio and she said, working with Joelle and Hindi, it's very, very tough out there in Florida. Besides the wonderful lifestyle that they seem to have there as well. But yeah, that's definitely helped her to just become a bit more concrete about that physical presence that she has in the court, because I think she was probably viewed in the past as someone that sort of breaks down a little bit, is not able to get through those hard moments. But now she's starting to show that she can do that. And she just keeps clocking up these wins, like the win she had over Tinner. She had a great Grasshopper Cup as well. So I think that, yeah, she's on her trajectory is very, very strong at the moment. But she's not, yeah, she doesn't have the sort of skills that we just spoke about with Siva, which could see her have the sort of result that Siva had to break into the top 10. I think it's going to be more of a graft, but definitely Georgina Kennedy has to watch her back now. Gina's obviously made that transition. She's decided, she's going to work with Ronnie Martin. So that was spoken about a bit as well. There's going to be some technical changes there, which will be quite tough and pretty, pretty strict. So Gina, as we know, she's sort of portrayed herself as a bit of an emotional character, quite sensitive, I think, as well. So that makes sense to me that transition is going to be a heavy one. So I'm not 100% surprised by the fact that she's had, a result where she's gone down and lost, but give it time. And she's a great competitor. She's a physical beast herself. So she just may need a bit of time to go through this phase. But I would say that back her over the course of the season to see that the improvements will come. So it'll just be interesting to see how that works with Rodney as well.
Yeah, no, I am excited for that partnership. I think that's a good point. Maybe we give a bit more grace as these players are transitioned. There's a lot of changes happening, and that got me thinking about Yusuf Suleiman's backhand that we saw in action yesterday, which was not successful against Paul Cole, but we definitely see some changes happening amongst players, and it's always interesting to see players' techniques change over the years. You might not notice it as we watch them so often, but you look at old footages of them and you realize how much they've developed over the years. I was actually watching Nilla Gillis on like a 2019 nonce match and realize how much her technique has changed over the years, and you don't really clock it on the day to day.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely. It's crucial in all crafts where there's a technique involved and skill development that you're going to have to just forge your way forward with that development. You're always going to become a different version of yourself as you get older. Mohamed Al Shabagi, look at the way he attacks the front of the court now. If you go back and watch the games, even with Rummy, he was sort of always playing that more of a support. I don't want to take any, underplay the skills of Shabagi even back then, but he definitely was playing more the physical beast, the support role to Rummy, who was firing and shooting a lot. But as he's gotten older, the mastery of the what he does from mid to front court and the variety. And I've never seen anybody that plays so many different types of trickle bows and Aussie bows and bows and can get away with it, at 34 years of age. I say get away with it because he plays it so severely that even the quickest players like Jonah Bryant, we saw at this tournament, were struggling to read it. So, if you can't read something, at the end of the day, doesn't matter how quick you are, you're going to be late onto it, and then you don't have many options.
Oh, fair enough. Before we move on to the men's, is there anything you wanted to mention from the London Classic on the women's side? I don't know if you feel that Nilla Gillis could put up a better fight against Amina Orfi, or if you think that final tomorrow is going to be a battle, or do you think it's going to be a bit straightforward on your end?
I'm not as sure as you that it's going to be so straightforward. I'm really impressed with the way that Gillis in this first best of 5 match at this tournament that she carved through Satomi pretty convincingly. So I mean, there's no doubting that she has plenty of reserves left. So she's going to bring all that to the table. She's just got to manage to contain Orphy in that first phase and get her confidence up. And if she gets any sniff that her line patterns are working and she's able to work positions where she's able to get a taker in and work her, then it'll be game on. So I think I'll back Orphy, but I think it's going to be a tough 3-1.
Brilliant. I hope I get proved wrong on this one. But Johnny, let's transition over to the men's one draw, which I know we just had that absolute thriller with Diego Elias. Why don't we just start with that? Would love to get your take on that match in itself. I mean, just to paint the picture, I really think there's been a lot of noise. Joel Makin's fighting for that 3 spot, and he'll be essentially fighting for that 3 spot in tomorrow's final. If he wins it against Paul Cole, he'll take over Paul Cole, and I think that would really legitimize his case against him tackling into further making inroads against Mustafa Asal and Diego Elias. I think he's proven it in the past in 2025 so far, and there's been a couple narratives about Diego Elias and Mustafa Asal really leaving the pack behind with the level squash they play, and Joel Makin essentially has closed the gap. And I don't want to be disrespectful for Paul Cole either, because he's been having an immaculate run so far, but kind of want to start off with that match. I mean, as you mentioned on the pre-show, we were talking about, you said that was his most convincing win over Diego, and Diego is not someone who just falls like that. So yeah, would love to get the breakdown of that match on your side of things.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's it's being able, having the privilege of being involved with Joel on this consultancy basis. So we had a phone call this afternoon, as we do, especially when we get to these big match stages, and it's turned into a 3-way conversation between myself, Miles, and Joel. And obviously, Miles is much more on hand. He's there with Joel. He has much more of a day-to-day contact with Joel, and he's putting in a lot more hours as well. But Miles, the way that he's grown into this role of being Joel's main coach at the end of the day and doing that job, and then me trying to, I suppose, on a consultancy basis, trying to figure out like where of Joel's, where the attacking systems of Joel, where could they get better? When do the attacks have to go in? What are the patterns that need to be set up to put him in a better position where he's guarding himself against the supreme abilities of someone like Asal or Diego? So there's been a lot of work invested at looking at the way that Diego plays, the way that Asal plays in particular, and Farag. That certainly him retiring certainly helped that cause in terms of the amount of late night hours of just watching matches and replays over and over and trying to figure things out. But Joel's done reasonably well against Diego, it has to be said, over the last 3 years. He beat him at Canary Wharf in 2023. He beat him at the British Open quarterfinal 2024, and he had, of course, that rather controversial win at the Squash Tour finals. But without looking at the well, it's not just that. It's just more for me. Obviously, it's always about the execution, the process. What was he doing right? How did he win that second game, even to get back to 1-1 in the Squash Tour finals? That's more my focus when I'm looking at these things, and then having those conversations with Miles. But we were very much on the same page today about 2 or 3 things that we felt were crucial to what Joel had to do. Joel was unbelievable in the way that he executed that in the first 2 games. Diego didn't want to join the party in the first 2 games today for whatever reason. But as we've seen, and as Joel mentioned in the post-match interview, he's done it before where he's played Paul Cole in Singapore. Seemed like he is looking to book the next flight home, 2-love down, and then he suddenly decides to play. I mean, and once that guy gets his teeth in and he's got his claws into you, it's very, very hard to get past him. And that's why I think the win today from Joel, given that the last 2 games, I think the first 2 games were about 30 minutes, the last 2 games were 50 minutes. And so that is probably the most legitimate win that Joel's had against Diego, because I think Diego played a very high level today also, where he really got a hold of Joel in those 3rd and 4th games and was getting positions and taking him in and using his heavy hitting to take the wind out of Joel. And Joel was able to still absorb it and keep coming in a way that perhaps he definitely wasn't able to do 18 months ago, 24 months ago. So incredible end, the last period of the match, the last 10 minutes in that, heading into the tiebreak, quite a few let situations as well. Probably, I think the fact that there was a few let situations might have favoured Joel a little bit, because it just gave him a little bit more breathing time between the heavy workload that he was submitted to, and the way that he was able to come up with a trickle boast at the end of the match. on the last point, I mean, I've been pushing him to sort of go for those winners when at the big stages at the end of games, like look for your chance and come up with something surprising. And he's doing that better and better. So, massive hats off to him. I mean, he's the ultimate warrior, and we've said it before, and it doesn't get any better than that. So it was a great win.
I mean, unbelievable, incredibly exciting to see him move towards the top of the sport, which he's definitely headed towards the direction, and clearly has the right team behind him with the consultants' relationship he has with you and the Miles Jenkins relationship. The variations was unbelievable. The backhand flick, didn't see that from him before. I mean, I know the commentators were reaming about the lobs he was throwing in there against Diego. I mean, the execution, I'm sure, was unbelievable. But yeah, very impressive to see. I think his squash, like, I don't think people give him enough credit with the variations he brings to the table, and everyone goes back to him being a metronome. But just awesome to see his squash improve over the past couple of years, and he's heading in the right direction.
I mean, nobody's work, in terms of, hours invested, but he understands better than anyone that it's about quality hours. So every time he's looking to gain an advantage somewhere or some kind of improvement, he's not going on the court doing solo without a real strict purpose. And that's what makes him so good. And he asks all the right questions he's looking at the trickle boast of Shabagi and the way that he can play it so thin. And then he's looking himself for that right moment. And today he played that trickle, I think on game ball in game 2, which was, perfect timing as well on that one. So yeah, he's looking at all the other players and studying them in detail to figure out how can I bring these kind of elements into my game to make me a bit more difficult to read and a bit more difficult to predict.
Given your guys' the nature of your relationship, are you guys going to be jumping on a call later tonight or tomorrow against preparations against Paul Core, or is that already been discussed?
No, we because obviously today. I've had a funny day because I was actually with the family out in a village in Switzerland at a city sort of festival, and I was walking through the festival, and then I've jumped on the call with Miles and Joel because we sort of planned in the afternoon, and I was surrounded by about 150 people, so I was trying to find a quiet area, but Miles and I were, like I said, we're very much on the same page about a lot of the stuff that had to go on today. But yeah, I mean, it's reset. And, after this call with you, to be honest, I'll go back and watch elements of the match that Joel played against PC in Hong Kong. I'll go back and have a look at the match from Qatar last year. And I've got what I call a fast forward version. I go through, I look at the end of rallies and see how rallies panned out at the end to try to sort of find distinguishable patterns and then sort of note them down. And then we'll have that call tomorrow.
Brilliant. I mean, lots at stake for tomorrow's final, especially given that 3 spots now being opened up. But moving on from that match, I mean, before we go deeper into the earlier rounds, I actually did want to address the Paul Cole Ian Yao match. I mean, clearly Paul Cole definitely had I'm not saying he had an easy route, but he had an easier route compared to what I thought the strength of the top half of the draw in this London Classic. But Paul Cole ripping through the draw against Yusuf Solomon and Ian Yao. The question I had was actually, before we actually dive into Paul Cole, which I guess is a bigger question as a season preview, as we have Tarek Momin retiring, and there's been a power grab in the top, who's going to solidify themselves in the top 10. And in my opinion, a bit of a disappointing performance by both Ian Yao and Yusuf Solomon, who could really improve their chance here to really show their fight. And what I'm left with as an audience or fan is that the gap is still massive compared to the top of the game, or top 5, top 4 against in the latter half of the top 10 or the top 15 players. And I guess with Ian Yao, who's 12 in the world, who has been in the top 10, who's been knocking on the door, but he gets wins over players 6, 7, 8 here and there, but he really seems to struggle with anyone in the top 4, top 5. And curious to get your take on what's missing of these players compared to someone like Paul Cole or Joel Macon or Diego and Asal.
Yeah, no, you're raising all the right questions. I think that's a fair comment. In terms of discussing these things openly in a media forum, like Yao played a really good game against Marwan, but he was obviously, Marwan is just a better matchup for Yao because Marwan is someone who's perhaps not as dynamic with his movement as a lot of the Egyptian guys that have sort of had a stranglehold on the top 10 positions for so long. Even the older crew of a Gawad or Muhammad, even, Muhammad's still, whilst he has some issues with his body, he's still explosive. He still can move when he has to. And especially in the first 30 or 40 minutes of a match, he can take. We've seen already here, like he almost took Joel out. Let's not forget yesterday. So Joel was under all sorts of threats at 6-2 down in the third, and Joel was aware of that. But Yao just doesn't have those dynamics to his game for me. It's a really organised game. It flows and it's got a certain smoothness about it. But when you're looking for that extra bit of punch on the some cracking volleys and a bit of extra level deception around that mid-court area, he doesn't have it. So that is what is missing for me against Paul Cole in this particular scenario tonight, or even if he has to play a Macon, for example, a Gawad. The guys that have those dynamics in terms of the way that they can eject pace and they can just, accelerate or decelerate on the ball when they've got advantage in the court, when they've good positions, Yao is just not at that level of those guys. So he would have to make up for that with serious grunt and serious retrieval powers and attritional powers, which he has to world number 12, but I don't think that it's better than that. And that's why you're seeing him at world number 12 struggling to push Paul Cole in that match tonight. And Cole looks, he looks in very good nick. I was thinking physically, I don't know about you, but I just feel like I'm looking at his face and I'm wondering whether he's lost a kilo and a half, just a little bit, because we know how particular Cole is about his diet, about every hour of his day, his golf swing, the whole lot, So I wouldn't be surprised if PC's lost a little bit of weight, because I feel like there's a bit more definition in his body in what I saw, the images coming out of the court. So I think that he also has decided to streamline himself a little bit, looking for that extra bit of advantage wherever he can find it. And he is absolutely rock solid in the top four with Joel. And I don't see, the older crew who've got the skill sets and the dynamics in their games to perhaps have wins, such as Gawad or Shabagi, as they've proven even in the last 12 months. They are going to struggle now to hold on just purely due to age. And the ones you're looking for that are going to take that next step towards Paul Cole or John Macon, really, in my mind, are Ibrahim. He's definitely one. But Solomon, it's a little bit one-dimensional without trying to be too harsh. It's just we're not seeing the explosive racket work that could sort of jolt players around and surprise them at those critical moments at the end game. So I really see Solomon rock solid around that 10 mark that he is, or just inside the top 10. But I'm not seeing any fresh evidence that's going to push him higher. But Ali Farag will have something to say about that, no doubt, as his new coach. Let's not forget. No one better, perhaps, to have in your corner to sort of eke out some new drive and some new things to his game. But Jonah's the one that showed at the British Open against Mustafa Asal. Although he's still very young, 20 years of age, he's got the qualities, he's got the powers in his game to take it to that next level. Now, he dipped out here to Muhammad, but that was experience against youth on display in its finest form. Like, I mean, he got suckered in again as well. Like, we've seen all of these young guys get beat up by El Shabagi mentally and tactically this year, and Jonah was the next victim of that this tournament. So I felt that he should have tried to be a little bit more explosive in his hitting with Shabagi and try and displace him and then attack with a bit more severity. But I felt like he got sucked into sort of trying to place the ball around and against Muhammad. I mean, he's taking on shots from depth. Like, he's not waiting for a really good position. He'll take on a half chance and go short and he'll hurt you. So against a great learning curve for Jonah in that match, but I still see Jonah as somebody that's going to push through quickly.
Yeah, no, I mean, it wouldn't be a podcast episode without addressing Mohamed El Shabagi, who, I don't know if you've seen the recent Squash Player Magazine interview with him, but I don't know, guys, you gotta go watch that, have a listen.
Yeah.
Hate to be plugging other podcasts, but That's a brilliant list, and please go over there. I mean, just the idea of him opening up. I do think it's funny. I think Joel mentioned it after his quarterfinal matchup that Muhammad might be going around saying that he's old now, but I think it's a front, Johnny. I think it's a front. He still has that dynamic squash he has, and I think the way he's able to dispatch players like Jonah and Zachariah, who have caused so much trouble for the top players, I think it's unbelievable. His experience, the way he actually just breaks down the game, makes this so confusing for these young guys, gives no structure behind it. And how dare I? Again, I thought Jonah would have a lot better of a success against Mohamed El-Shirvagi, but again, proven wrong, happily proven wrong again. But really thought Mohamed looked at this event as an event that he circled on his calendar, being like, I could do some damage here, especially with the best of three formatting. And he showed it. He really, I thought, had a chance against Joel Macon as well in that quarterfinals. But
oh, he did. He ripped. He was ripping the front of the court apart. I mean, when you look at some of those. Well, first of all, you got the variety. So out of the back corners, when he's hitting those very thin trickles or killing it from the back, it's backed up by the kind of length hitting that you dream of. That's why we all step on the court and we want to crank the ball down the line or hook it cross court. This guy's just hitting postage stamps, all over the place. Like he literally seems to have an inbuilt radar system that because of the level that he's played and the level that he is. But very interesting for me, as a takeaway from that pod is he's like, I don't even enjoy it. Like that just, I couldn't believe that statement, because that doesn't resonate too well with a person like me who's just blood, sweat and tears for the sport inside out. And, even getting in there myself and trying to do things at 50, soon to be 53. Like I do absolutely 100% passionately just love this game and I love to try to figure things out. But yeah, I believe him. Like he has a different angle on who he is and what his role is when he plays this game, and it's much more on that mental side of things and the battlefield. Like he goes out for the battlefield aspects of it to get into your head and just make you crumble. And he just gets such a almost sick type of satisfaction out of it. Like it's incredible.
It's psychotic. It's like, I mean, the way he was breaking down cultures at the beginning of the podcast, he was looking at different cultures. I was like, the lengths it's just such a good insight on someone who's reached the top of their respective sport. And you see, they're not normal people. I mean, they're definitely not normal. No. I mean, what it takes to be at that level requires some sadistic or psychotic way of interpreting things, but it was just brilliant podcast and it was great to hear that. But is there anyone else from this London Classic? I guess we're essentially kind of doing the season preview anyway by talking through these players, but anything that caught your attention from the London Classic in the earlier rounds, maybe that surprised you?
I like the way, I mean, the performance that really stood out obviously is the Bulgars against Paul Cole. Now he got the yips for the umpteenth time, it has to be said, unfortunately. And the yips, I don't know, I'm not sure that he's been in a position where he's played some really good games with Cole where he's taken him to 5 and pushed him. But, I mean, it doesn't get any more glaring than 10-9 up. He takes Cole in. Cole slipped over a little bit on that pickup. If you watch it carefully, like he actually slipped over. So as soon as a Bulgar, especially with his power, he just needed to punch the ball down the line. He could have hit it 4 foot above the 10 and it would have been a winner. But he's got to find, it's never too late. It's never too late to fix the yips. And if he can just even fix it at least 50%, he is going to be a guy that can also threat because, again, the speed and the dynamics that he has, the ability to inject power and inject unbelievable quality with his hard low hitting makes him a weapon. And if he can bring that kind of quality of squash that we saw in the match against Cole, he'll be on a good path this season. So I'll definitely be watching him. And Jonah, I mean, he ran into Shirvagi, not the guy that he wanted to run into perhaps in that round so early, but I trust Jonah to keep marching on up into the top 20 and beyond. And Zachariah, obviously we haven't seen him here, but he's the other standout for me that is no doubt going to keep moving forward quickly.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's funny. I was just thinking about how if Abu Elgar beat Paul Cole, this podcast would be narrated completely differently. I'd be jumping the gun as Paul Cole lost it. Is he no longer fighting for the top spot? But it's funny, and then we see 2 incredibly convincing performances by him. But again, I think that was a good shout on Abu Elgar. The interesting thing I wanted to talk about was actually Adrian Waller beating Leon Cardenas very convincingly in round one. I also looked at Leonel Cardenas as someone who I think should be on the right trajectory, making inroads to top 12. And then you see a performance like this, and then I divert back to the depth of the tour is that no one was really convincing to me outside of maybe outside of the top 10, really, or outside of the top 8. And it seems like no one's really has a stamp hold of their position. Obviously, we have the young giants of Jonah and Zachariah, who I think is going to make huge inroads this season. But I thought that was a disappointing result from Leonel Cardenas. But again, Adrian Waller, I think is just one of those players. I'd say Adrian Waller, Nathan Lake, and Greg Lobban are the mountains that all the players outside of the top 50 that you need the gauntlet to go through.
Yeah, no, good take on Waller. I mean, Waller's he's such a difficult lefty, so that's unorthodox in itself. He's got a very, very big forehand on him. You know, like he can, from a very short backswing, he can just fade like down the line, or he brings it cross court. He's got wonderful skills that have just gotten better and better, and he's mid-30s. And I sat down with Adrian at the Palm Hills Classic, and I was talking with him and talking about the whole studio thing. I'll tell you what, I'm going to give him a shout out because I love talking squash with anybody, but someone that can articulate themselves as well as Adrian in terms of the game styles and stuff like that. He's definitely a guy that could work on Squash TV, giving his insights, because he has a great understanding of what players are doing and the way that the game styles work. And he gave some great input. So he's got loads of experience, and yeah, he's a true litmus test, as you said. Like, that's the sort of player that you got to get past, and that perhaps highlights what you were sort of trying to say with Cardenas. Cardenas is very, very, very strong mentally, physically very good. Mexico City born, at altitude, barrel chested. He's got all of that, but I remember even seeing when he played Victor Crouan in Canada. I was on comms. Match went to 5 games. It went 110 minutes. Brutal conditions, at altitude. Well, a sort of, I'll say small altitude of 1,045 meters. But Cardenas is very good in those types of conditions. When it's warm, when it's bouncy, he's going to be very hard to get off the court. But that court there, especially in the early rounds where perhaps the theatre wasn't so packed, it was playing more to a cold court conditions. And then you throw in best of 3, Adrian's coming out firing and he's letting his arm go. That's what Cardenas has got to deal with better. But his short game is just not up to scratch to make that move. He's very solid at 13 in the world. I don't think he's going to go backwards, but going forwards is going to be hard unless he brushes up on those short game qualities.
So that I guess that kind of covers London Classic. I mean, we've already kind of jumped into the season preview, but I guess kind of transitioning out of the London Classic. I mean, there's obviously players that are not featured, like Asal is not featured in this. We haven't seen Zachariah, who's been such a kind of took over summer headlines with the World Junior. I don't know if you caught on to I don't know how much you watched the junior scene as well, but kind of chopped through the draw there. But I guess this is a good transition to the season preview, and wanted to ask, are there any young players outside of maybe the typical name we say of Jonah and Zachariah that you think we should be watching out for this season? Might be hard to replicate the rise they did last season, but are there any names that catch your attention?
Yeah, nobody that's going to take the meteoric sort of path that they did. But Kareem El Torki, he is at 37 in the world, very, very physically designed for squash. You know, he's got great speed. He's explosive. He looks like he's a rock solid worker as well. So I think that Kareem El Torki is a name that we're going to, if we keep talking on these podcasts, we're going to be talking more about him as time goes on. I see him pushing his way to the top 20, certainly over the next 12 months, 18 months and beyond in the longer term, because I like the way that his game's structured. He's strong in the air. He's got great movement qualities into the front of the court, and he plays a very, very organised brand. His line hitting is very clean, good technique. So I like the way that he's sort of moving along. Veer Shatrani, we saw at the World Champs. I mean, this guy troubled Farag, and I was absolutely blown away by the skills of the Indian, because I haven't seen someone that's so low ranked that there's not on the radar that suddenly you're like, what's going on here? This guy has the ability and the potential to be a lot higher than 50 odd in the world. And with that kind of game style that he has, his game is built for glass courts. He's compact. He's got great shots, and he can switch up between going short and long in the blink of an eye. And that's what you need to be successful, as we know in this game. So if Veer is on good course, training really, really hard with David Palmer, which I can't imagine it would be any other way than that when you're working with the Marine at Cornell, then I think that Veer Shatrani's certainly someone to keep an eye on as well. Melville's Sienna from France. I like the way that his game's developed as well. He's an attritional sort of counter punching defensive player, but watching at the World Champs, I saw him take out Ika Pajares, who's someone that I've also helped a little bit, and he was becoming more attacking, looking for adding attacking elements across the short line. He's very flexible. He's really mobile, and there's no doubting his fitness, and he's got a good attitude. So he is a guy, I think, at 60 in the world that could keep sort of grinding his way up the rankings. The other one, a bit of a wild card, I find is Matthias Knudsen, because the Colombian who studied in the States, well, I mean, I've got a bit of a rapport with Matthias because he likes to do the most amazing trick shots on Instagram. If he could just apply the trick shot sort of concentration to the hard sort of elements of his squash and become more physical with those skills that he has, he could certainly be a much higher ranked player than what he is at 61. But he's just got to harden up and toughen up. And if he learns to do the things that you need to do to get to the top of the game, like I'd certainly think that he's got the skills to do it.
Oh, that's a brilliant shout. I mean, I think he's also been quietly going about his business.
Yeah,
I know the trick shots might get people distracted, but he has been moving up the rankings, as you said. I mean, those are great shouts.
It gets views, but it doesn't get your ranking points. That's the problem.
Get you social media accounts and followers.
It does. Yeah.
But Veer's a great shout. I just had him on, so I'm trying to release that episode right before this. But Veer's, I mean, okay. If we're talking about passion for the game, he's up there for just the love of the game. Had his head straight, wanting to move up the rankings, and I definitely agree with you. The one name that I was thinking of that I know I mentioned was Sam Osborne-Wild. I just think he has such a clean strike. The way he strikes the ball, I mean, it's a classic from the Rob Owen camp, but I've been following along since his junior career where they made that noise back in during COVID, and he was the star player there, and he took down Zachariah when Zachariah was, I don't know how old he was, 14, 15, but he's someone I look out to, as I know he had an injury issue in previous years, but he seems like that was his first season back, and I think he's going to make some inroads as well. Beautiful striker of the ball, great mover. Good call.
Yeah, good call. He's in a really, I mean, obviously Rob Owen, that's a proven camp of just production of high quality people, high quality players. So he he's got his head down. He's going in the right direction. I know from Joel that a lot of the guys in Birmingham, they try to get over to Joel and have hits with him, and Sam is doing that regularly. So Sam just obviously, he's probably doesn't have the same sort of fire to his game that Jonah has, but he's just probably going to take a bit longer. So if you give him that time, I think that his game will develop in time. So slowly but surely, I think that that call is going to be the right one.
Brilliant. And now the big question I have for the men's season preview is I want to give you 4 to 5 names. So if you look at the current rankings right now, at 8, you have given the Ali Farag and Tarek Momin retirement shakeup of the top 10. We have Yusuf Solomon at 8, Ali Abdelainen at 9, Yusuf Ibrahim at 10, Victor Kruin at 11, and Ian Yao at 12. And then Leon Cardenas at 13, and then Zachariah at 14. I think 15 would be Faris Suzuki. These players haven't been able to crack into the top of the game. And I think we've kind of previewed that earlier in the London Classic when we were kind of going over that. Which of these players do you think, when we look back after this season, would you assume has solidified themselves in the top 10, or better yet, make it past the 8 mark and go into the 7, 6, or 5 mark? If I were to put you in the spot there.
Which you have, that's fine, and that's the right way to do it, Sean. No, so I'm thinking about those names, and I'm trying to think, where do I have trust? That's the first thing I ask myself. Where have I got trust based on evidence, based on even not so much in perhaps in the big wins that they've had, but close losses that they've had against the top 4, top 5, where they're getting close, and they keep bringing those performances consistently and solidly. So the ones that from there that stand out, I would say definitely Ibrahim. Ibrahim's come out and said he wants to be top 3. So he's certainly chock full of confidence. He is definitely the standout player that's sitting there that could move the most, I think, towards the top 5 and even give a Joel and Paul definitely a shake if he's able to string together enough performances over a long period of time. We could be talking about Ibrahim, even going to the top 4 or top 3 as he wants to do and as he's aiming to do. And effectively, what you're also asking is who is going to have wins against Goat and Muhammad Al Shibagi. That's who's capable of doing that. I don't have enough trust in Suzuki. I don't have enough, just purely on attitude and his mental state of mind. Yeah. For what we've seen again from Solomon, I'm not seeing enough there to his game yet that makes me believe that he's going to have consistent wins against the higher ranked players. Victor is an interesting one. I feel like he's shown a bit more. He has been at world number 7. Then he's dropped back. So he's had a taste of what it's like. And the question is, can he add enough to his game? Because he's a guy who's small. He's not possessed with natural amounts of explosive speed. So he has to cover that with the way that he controls the mid-court, patrols, or as Joey says, the iron marshal. He literally has to be that general in the middle of the court, using changes of pace, height. I feel that Victor is almost, with his game style, is being pressing with the intensity and almost pressing the pace too much at times and not taking pace out and bearing it enough from difficult positions. I feel like he kind of goes into difficult positions around the mid to front court and then gets himself in more trouble. So I think if he can get that balance better, then I think he's got a good chance of moving up higher as well, because nobody's got their head down more. Level of discipline with Victor, it's I've said it before, he's like a monk with his dad. They're in the squash equivalent of the monastery. So I certainly like the way he goes about his business, and I think that he's one that could push towards the top 8 as well. The Swiss boy whose name you didn't mention there, Demi Steinman. He showed glimpses with his unbelievable turbo power sports racing car that he is, but the mental side of things has been a little bit choppy. So I feel like he needs to give us a bit more belief that he can do it more consistently before I'd sort of tag him and say that he's on the way up. I'm not quite sure, because Demi's going to have Jonah pushing through, and he's going to have Zachariah pushing upwards as well. And Cardenas is also, I don't think Cardenas is going backwards. I think that he's going to hold or go forwards. Did I miss anybody there?
Ali Abu Alainen. I know he's had
Alainen. So yeah. Earned his position, didn't he, in the top 10? No doubt about that. But yeah, I don't put him in the same bracket as the names that I sort of highlighted there in terms of Ibrahim, Kruan. He really impressed me early in the year, and some of the performances he's put in against Asal I thought were unbelievable. But then, I saw when he played before he got injured at the World Champs, even at the Grasshopper Cup, he should have lost to Adrian Waller. Getting back to what you just said a bit earlier, like he was almost clueless against Waller as to where he should play the ball and how he could protect himself. He looked very vulnerable, and he needs to really show that he can deal with like those sort of hurdles to get past those tests and put those guys away before I think that we'd have more confidence that he's going to move upwards from 9. I think, first of all, he's going to have to come back into the fray and then he's going to be fighting to get his position back in the top 10, no doubt, I would say, before we talk about going onwards from there.
I mean, it's going to be a very interesting battle. Now, the other question I had for you was against, I mean, we always talk about this, but Zachariah and Jonah Bryan, where do you see right now? Zachariah is at 14 and Jonah, I believe, is at 26. If I have that, 26. Where do you foresee them ending after this season?
Yeah, you give me a lot of time, which I like. Yeah, and I in the PSA. On the PSA website, we did. I was included in the pundits that did a piece where we had to make some predictions and stuff like that. So I've said I think that they're both going to be inside the top 10 by the end of June next year.
These are the takes we love to hear. Yeah.
Zacharias. I mean, I think you would half expect that given his trajectory and the way he's been going. But Jonah obviously has to get big results on the board. But I'm not going to get thrown by the result against Muhammad Al Shibagi, because a lot of players have struggled against Muhammad Al Shibagi when he's got the weapons out and he's just firing missiles everywhere. So I don't think that is that's not the sort of match that will sway my opinion.
Yeah, no, brilliant. One thing I wanted to mention was I was watching the Yusuf Ibrahim and then Diego Elias. I mean, brilliant first game, and then kind of I think the storyline of Yusuf Ibrahim kind of getting a little too frustrated with the referees, and then you kind of see it unraveling. So you got to see the best version of him and also the worst version of him in that match there in the London Classic. But I kind of noticed I felt like he bulked up a little. I don't know if you've noticed that as well, Johnny, but you looked like you put on a bit of muscle, a bigger frame. I don't know if that was to be able to match the physicality of the top of the game, but that was just something I noticed. And yeah, I mean, I love it when players come out and say big statements. And I know he came out saying, I'm battling for top three. I'm not even like, it's not even no question about it. I'm here to be in the top of the game. So excited to see how he goes.
Yeah, we need that. We need that. We need players that, as someone who's obviously working at Squash TV as well, like you want to have the players making really good conversation, creating storylines. And Joel has been brilliant with that sort of stuff as well. The whole boxing analogy, because we know that he boxes and he sort of brings that terminology into his interviews and stuff like that. And he's been quite combative in some of the interviews as well. Like obviously before he played Asal, which definitely you could argue that it backfired, but he was saying like, I'm going to bring the heat and we'll see where it goes. Well, it worked out pretty well for Mustafa, obviously, who took him out in that British Open semis. But the fact that it sets the media forums alight is exactly what we need. So Nelly Geller saying, I want to be back top four. That's where I believe I should be. Ibrahim says I should be top three. The only thing we'll say is definitely, well, Yusuf, if you want to be top three, go back and watch what Joel did when Diego basically had a noose around his neck and was dragging him all over the court, making it completely awful. And the way that Joel was able to just keep his mindset in the same frame, trying to work his patterns, not deviating, because correctly, as you said, Yusuf just deviates too much. And it's not just the stuff with the referee, it's the shooting from the back of the court, which is it's hard. Like, how often are you going to win against someone like Diego, who's got the most perfect classic game? Like, you just can't see how he's going to win doing that,
Yeah. I guess final question on the men's side is Asal or Elias, or is it going to be Macon or Cole? Who's going to be topping this season for you?
So, I mean, it's very straight. It's hot off the press, isn't it? Like, I'm basically going to get to work straight after this call, mate, and have a look at these games between Macon and Cole. I think this, in terms of Joel, has obviously had a really good record against Paul Cole the last couple of years. Cole had his number certainly in the first part of that head-to-head, but now Joel has had a lot of wins in the last period, but none bigger is the test tomorrow, because he's definitely going to go in jaded. He's going to be heavy-legged, so that all of the skills aspects that you talked about in the variations, they are going to need to come to the fore, because we know what we're going to get with Paul. We're going to get a very solid brand. We're going to get defensive qualities in all areas of the court, and there's no way that it's going to be easy to get past him. So Joel is going to have to outplay him. So getting a hold of that number 3 spot includes winning these sort of matches tomorrow, because otherwise Paul's going to increase that gap. But there's still a long way to go between Paul and Joel bridging the gap towards Diego. Diego will have his tail between his legs after that result today, but he will no doubt come back revived and raring at the next 2 events. And don't forget the next 2 events. This, as good as it was still, I'll say, only gold, because the platinums are where the real ranking points are made. So we need to keep an eye out on what happens in the next 2 events. But I said that in the predictions with PSA that Mustafa's going to hold on to that number 1 spot, and I think that he will over the course of the season. I think the gap is too large. But I'll go out on a limb and say that the one who is going to make the most inroads towards that is Joel Macon. Mm. And people can call me biased if they want. I don't care.
Gotta stay loyal there. But why don't we shift it over to the women's side? I guess we talked a lot about the interesting topics, especially in the depth of 6 to 15, 6 to 20 in the rankings, and we obviously have the big 3. Unfortunately, none of them were featured in the London class, so we haven't been able to see that early form yet, which I'm sure we will in the next coming weeks as the season is fully underway now, and we'll be hit with events left and right. But I guess the question to ask is, Are there any players starting as similar with the men's? Are there any players that you're looking out for this season, maybe that aren't getting enough media attention that you think we should be looking out for or paying attention to?
I mean, obviously, at the beginning of this show, we talked about Tesney and Jazz, yeah, I would say that outside of the top 10, Nelly Gillis is going to be the big mover. I as, when she's moving well and she's not having any issues with her body, she's the best chance to make that jump and get back towards certainly the top 8, 7, 6, and she is going to start asking those questions of Satomi, which she successfully did today. Siva and Satomi have the racket quality in their own ways. We know that. Satomi's got unbelievable contrast between the heavy sort of kills that she can play and then the softness of the touch. She's aesthetically incredibly wonderful squash player to watch. But I want to see more grunt from her, because I saw her. I was on comms with Simon Park in Palm Hills, and when Noran Gohar came out, with that bullish type game, very physical, very really testing her in the finals. She was found wanting. She really wasn't close to getting anywhere near Gohar. So there's just not enough evidence there to say that she's ready to take that step towards the top 3. Amina Orfi, we know that she has the goods and she keeps getting better. Her game keeps evolving. We saw last season that around the midcourt, because the questions were sort of asked, asking questions about a 17-year-old, by the way. So we've got to give her a bit of time. But the forehand attacks were perhaps not where they needed to be. We saw that got better. She started taking the ball in better. But perhaps in comparison, certainly to Shabini, Gohar, and even Weaver, just a little bit heavy, perhaps on some of the volley drops and stuff like that. Any improvement there, and then you're going to see Orfi not only taking the 4 spot, in my opinion, but then she's seriously going to be knocking on the door on the top 3. If that's the big question for me. If she just gets that ability on being able to hold better anywhere from mid to front, and she's starting to get more value on a short game, especially the straight short stuff, and she can then mix it up, because the heavy hitting from a short backswing, she can do that. And she's got some nice little whips with the boast and low crosses. They're there. But she just needs to build more contrast into being able to hold the short ball. And when she does that, she's a serious threat, to be honest, to go all the way, I think. So if that improves quickly this season, we could be, having a pod about her pre-Worlds where she's in the mix,
Mm-hmm. If I were to put you on the spot and have you decide between Olivia Weaver or Amina Orfi by the end of the season, either of them has cracked into the top 3 in some hypothetical world, who do you lean on picking?
I think you just heard it now. It's Orfi, isn't it? Because Weaver has, she's been keeps, inching closer. Talk about, incremental gains. Nobody has got their head down more than Olivia Weaver and does all the right things and keeps, you saw a nice post on Instagram where she showed a day in the life of her, and you see it's spot on. She's putting in all the hard yards. Fantastically skilled player, and that will just keep getting better as this season goes on. But what worries me is when I see this injury thing come. She's had problems with her back before, so I just have a little sort of slight concern about her body holding up over the course of a long season. So I sort of lean towards Orfi, but probably more based on that.
Brilliant. Now, 2 players I wanted to mention was actually Amanda Sobey and Joelle King. Amanda Sobey in the top 10 right now. Joelle King still moving her way up, and we got glimpses of her last season and also realized the depth of the tour there. But I mean, I think that those 2 are proven individuals. A couple years back, we would have the discussion with those 2, what we're having about Olivia Weaver and Amina Orfi, but I think they've actually had more success than compared to these 2 names. And there's something a part of me that believes that Amanda Sobey still has what it takes, given how explosive her racket work is. And she has challenged. I mean, obviously she's a bit older, but the way she rips through the draw in the early rounds against lower ranked players, I think is so clinical, and it gives her body time to rest. But do you see them making some noise, especially on Amanda Sobey's end this season? Or do you think maybe she has passed her prime a bit and the women's game is a bit too demanding at this point?
Yeah, I think that you've sort of summed it up perfectly there. I think the demands and the way that the physicality just keeps going from strength to strength. So we've talked about this year after year, and I think that conversation is going to continue in the same way, because I was looking at a photo of Nellie Gillis from one of the early rounds. I mean, the depth in it, I don't know if you saw it. It was just,
I've
it
seen
was
it.
outrageous. I mean, it like, talk about, that's the sort of stuff you see on the athletics track, a heptathlete or, that's the sort of quality of athlete that you have to be to compete with the top six, top seven. And Amanda's got the skill sets, but her body has been through the ringer with those two Achilles injuries. So Amanda can make some noise, but I think it'll be on a temporary basis. So she's always dangerous. If she has a good path through, good draw, yes, she can uh, clock up a win against even a Noran Gohar if she's not ready, or a Alamami. She's done it before, but I don't think we're going to see it as consistently as what she's done in the past. And I don't see her as a viable threat to go to the top 5 or 6 or anything like that. But she'll hold her position. She'll keep all of the girls around her very honest. She'll keep all the young girls honest. Anybody that lacks experience is going to have problems with an Amanda Sobi. And Joelle King further down, but yeah, a little bit the same sort of conversation. But I'm not sure that I think that Amanda is, with her position, obviously she's much more established in what she wants to achieve on the tour. Joelle, let's not forget, is 36. I think that Joelle's sights are much more set on the Olympics, LA 2028. So I don't think that Joelle is as much a threat in terms of reaching top 20 or perhaps certainly not top 10. But yeah, if anybody rocks up thinking Joelle King's going to be a pushover, then they should think again. It's far too many good qualities and proven entity to be thinking that.
And I guess, is there any players that on the lower side of the rankings that you think could make some noise this season? I mean, obviously, there's the young guns of Amina Orphi's essentially already established herself, but Farouz, she's still incredibly young. I mean, I think she's going to be put to the test this season as well with the depth of the tour. I mean, she's already in the top 15. There's obviously the young, I know the World Junior Champion, she's the runner-up, Nadine El Hamami. She looked incredible. As a player, I think she's someone to look out for. And there's like Anat Singh, who's very young, coming up player who's getting a lot of media traction as well. Just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on any young players that we should keep an eye on the women's side, or even someone like Georgia Adderley, who's quietly making noise there.
Yeah, no, Adderley is like, I feel that she's going to push her way into the top 20. She's definitely somebody that has the potential to get into the top 16 and be there for a long period of time, because her base game is based on the fundamentals that you want to see in a player. Like, very, very hard to put away, very tough to beat, and she's got, her mindset is absolute. Like, I'd put her in terms of the toughness and the way that she can dig and play. Like, we talk about Joel playing in the red zone. Well, George is another one that can play in the red zone and hang on. But good call on the young guns coming through. Anat Singh at 48 in the world, that ranking, I would say that could halve itself within a year, so I wouldn't be surprised if she goes from 48 to 24. And Nadine El Hamami, yeah, she's runner up the world. I've seen a little bit of her, 18 years of age, 67. That I reckon you could chop that in half as well. I see her heading towards the top 30 within the next 12 to 18 months for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I guess to kind of wrap it up, what is the biggest storyline you're looking at in the women's game this season? Do you think it's the season where we can actually legitimately say the big three are in trouble, that others are ready to crash the party? Not yet. Is it going to take another year or two? What do you think? Or is it the shakeup of the top 10? What are you looking at as the biggest storyline of the women's game?
Yeah, I would say that the top three, Amina Orphi is the biggest threat into the top three. If Olivia Weaver's body does not let her down, then she is also going to give that a good shake. But as long as the top three are fit and healthy, they are not going to get worse. they're just going to keep improving and set a bar higher that you thought was not even possible. So that is just going to be a wonderful thing to see and watch. Because what I love, I mean, when you look at every single interview, every single thing that you see about Alamami, about Noran Gohar, about Shabini, guess what? You just see them training all the time, mate. Like, it's not like they're not partying, you know what I mean? They're not relaxing. They're not talking about, like, I need to just sort of put my feet up here a bit. They are it's just the hunger levels are just off the charts. Like, they just want to keep succeeding. The one that perhaps out of those that I would say that is a little bit more susceptible is Shabini going to have a slight relaxation with getting that equal record to Nicole David, because I think the push to get the ninth is that is literally another Everest for her, with the others sort of chomping at the bit around her. Between, like you said, 6 to 14, especially with Gillis sitting at 14, and currently at number 6 to Tomi Watanabe. I mean, that is just like, that'll just be musical chairs, mate. Like that they could just be sitting around, and when the music stops, we could see almost a different ranking every week, by the way. So, because the rankings come out every week. So, yeah, don't. The betting market would be the place you want to enter into there. You might make quite a bit of money in terms of trying to sort of figure out some combinations there, because I think the maths will be very interesting.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. Well, I guess that kind of wraps it up on the season preview. I think we kind of really covered all the marks there, Johnny, unless there's anything else you wanted to mention here. But
one more. I'll tell you what, we forgot about something.
Uh-oh.
Watch out for the runner-up of the World Juniors. I got to mention him, Marwan Asal, because not only I think that he is going to give the rankings a bit of a shake. I think we're going to see him powering up there, but he needs to make sure that controversy doesn't follow him too much on the way, because he is another very controversial figure. But the boy can play. He plays a very physical brand of squash. He's got enormous energy reserves, and I have it on good word from Amir Waghi that he trains harder than his brother. So there you have it.
Wow. And are we going to be seeing him on the PSA Tour? Is he entering a lot of tournaments this season?
I would imagine that, Amir Waghi, I was playing paddle against him with Parky back at Palm Hills, and finally Parky and we got a win over Amir Waghi and Hesham Alatar. I was very proud of that, because that was my third game of paddle ever. So I have to put that plug in there with Parky. But Amir was one day we were driving. I shouldn't say that too loud, but not that the Egyptian police service will be listening in. But Amir was between driving on the Egyptian roads and on the phone all the time. Marwan Asal was on the court, like waiting for Amir to turn up to have a session with him. But Amir was saying that Marwan just can't get enough. He's on the court all the time. He's doing all those things you would expect of a young player. So I think that we're going to see him push through, and I would expect to see him on the tour pretty much full time. But he needs to keep it tidy.
Yeah, I know that World Juniors event. I mean, every World Juniors event is cause of controversy, but do you think there needs to be a bit of a cleanup on his end on the movement front as well, from what you've seen so far?
Yeah, massively. You can't be hitting balls down, especially just line balls down backhand line, and then sort of parking yourself like obviously in the way, and then sort of trying to get away with it. I don't see that that's going to be a very successful formula with the way that we know that Squash TV has got a very, very strong eye on these, almost a hawk eye, and because you got the backstop of the video ref, you're just not going to get away with it. So he needs to make sure that he's playing a strong, aggressive brand, but not putting himself in harm's way in terms of what the video might pick up. And of course, Mustafa will, that's the other interesting story to see how, because obviously things certainly got a little bit more ragged towards the end of last season. I think it has to be said, and there was those question marks raised. So Mustafa's good enough to play his brand of squash without that, and still be world number one, and still be the best player in the world. So it's very important that he has James Willstrop continuing to guide him in the right direction.
Brilliant. I guess, because you brought it up, I'm curious actually about the World Juniors event. Every year it seems like it's a fiasco. There's certain fiascos that goes on. There's certain fights that go on that seem borderline. It looks bad. Do you have any opinions on, do you think they've completely crossed the line with these junior events, with maybe the blocking that happens within these junior events, the coaches screaming, the parents screaming, or do you think we've kind of lost the plot at these events, and there needs to be something done about it? Am I overreacting about this? Like, what is your take on this, on those big junior events?
No, you're not overreacting. We've heard pods where Nick Taylor, the US national coach, who we know Nicky T's a fantastic guy for squash, and he's got the game, the best ethics of the game at heart with everything that he does. So when you hear guys like that they're saying that they are troubled with what they say. Nick Matthew came out and said it as well at the British Junior Open back in 2024, first week of January 2024. So when I'm hearing voices of reason saying, there needs to be guardrails in place to stop this from happening, then there needs to be a lot more attention paid by the WSO as to who's in charge at these events, And I would think that the tournament referee needs to be a stronger hand at enforcing the rules. And that goes for the parents as well, because this is just, it's not a good look for the sport. We have the most important thing in the sport's history coming up in just under 3 years, Sean, as we know, over your neck of the woods. So, no more time can be. We can't be debating these things and talking about stuff that's very, very obvious. Bad behaviour is bad behaviour at the end of the day. If parents are behaving badly, they need to be thrown out of the venue. Keep it simple. And tournament referees should be empowered to do that. It's not the referee. I mean, the referees have to report it, but the tournament referee has to be able to step in and sort of say, right, that's it. You've crossed the line. It's red card, literally. You know, you're done. Player or coach as well, as by the way.
No, I agree. I think, I mean, at this point, every event, there's a part of me that's worried about what type of fiasco is going to happen in this event, especially on these junior events, whether it be the British Junior or World Junior Open. I think it's gone out of hand, but anyway, not to put it on a sour note, but very excited for this season, Johnny. A lot of good things.
Me too, mate.
So we'll keep in touch. Maybe something surprising happens in the middle of the season. Maybe we'll do a mid-season checkup on how things are panning out. But till then, I think this is a great preview to get people excited for the upcoming season. We'll see Johnny Williams on the comms very, very soon. And thank you again for joining on the pod.
Thank you very much, Sean. Enjoyed it thoroughly, and I hope the viewers enjoyed that in-depth sort of look at what's about to unfold in front of us.